All right, welcome to ViewBoard Sonic Basics. This is going to be my quick start guide to using this program this year. Before we get started, if anybody needs any help or gets lost on something, I have my two helpers here, Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Stamper, and we will send them to your room if I can't help you through Zoom here on what we're trying to do. You were pre-sent a list of apps to download. VCast Center is the only one you're required. Others you can use with your whiteboard would be the whiteboard app that goes with the smartboard, and then the smartphone app. Those are optional, and I will explain why in a little bit. First off, I'm sure this is what we all felt like when we returned this last January with COVID and everything else and having to Zoom. You know, these smart boards that were installed in our rooms over Christmas break were like my daughter's gum in her hair, just one more thing that we have to deal with. I know many of you, when you got the email, you know, dang, why do we have to Zoom? It's just one more, we're tired of Zooming. We were tired of Zooming by the end of last year. Well, the reason why I wanted to Zoom for this in-service, for this session, was I have a theory that people learn better by actually doing. We've all been to those in-services, including here, others that I've hosted, where I show you how to use this technology, and then we're given time to go back to our rooms, and you know, we have coffee, we have other things to do, and we don't really use the technology. I always complain about how people show us all this new stuff to do, but we never have time to play with it. So in this session, as I'm presenting, you guys are also going to be using it. So what we're going to cover here is just basic connection options, pros and cons of each one, and then we'll do some demonstrations and have some application practices. 3 basic ways to connect and use your board. There is the standalone version. More or less, these boards are Android tablets. There's the HDMI, so direct connection to your laptop, which is what I have here. And then there is the VCast sender or Wi-Fi, where you can have your computer at the other end of your room, no cords attached, and just directly cast your image from your computer onto your smartboard. The first one we're going to cover is the standalone version. Pros and cons to this. You should be, as soon as we figure out what the problem is, our tech coordinator currently, our firewall is some reason blocking these things from accessing Google Suites and apps and tools, but eventually we should be able to bring up the whole Google suite of apps, and you could directly use them on this board, pull up any presentation, Google Doc, do a search without even have to have it connected to your computer at all. So that's some positives. This also turns into a standard whiteboard or old school chalkboard if you want. Now cons, I'll show you here in a second because I'm going to have you guys pull it up. It does take forever to type. Kids can see your passwords if you type them in. It's limited to cloud-based files. Does not work with Zoom unless you have an external, unless the students have the app, ViewSonic board app on their Chromebooks, and then you also need to be running a mic through it. So those are the downsides. So real quick here, all of you should see your home screen. And this would be your basic screen. You have your menu and you have the apps that come with it. I'm told there's supposed to be more eventually. There is a whiteboard app where you basically functions like a whiteboard, and I'll show you that later. But options you can do to customize it. If you want to change your name, because many of you haven't gotten around to that, all you do is you click on your name, you can type it in, you can even add a quote underneath. So if you'd all like to take the time to do that, I'd appreciate that. Mrs. Brown's already figured this part out. So this is your basic setup. Now, like I say, right now it's not working, but a neat thing is in the future, you should be able to get to your all your Google apps from this menu. Through this Chromium app, you should be able to access your drive. You should even be able to browse. Right now, we can't do that. Something's with our firewalls blocking that. The next stage that I'm going to talk about is going to be let me go back to my computer screen here, will be the computer connection. This way is one of the most convenient ways to connecting. Pros, both PC programs and tablet programs are accessible and functioning through this method. It's easy to type because you want to bring up a website. You're just doing it. You can just go to your keyboard, type it in. Videos on PowerPoints, Google Slides, and YouTube work all times during the day. You don't have any lag time. There's no glitches most of the time unless our entire internet system's having issues. Cons, you're sharing your screen with your students, so they see everything. Now, there is a freeze option on these. Unlike our Promethean board, some of them had a freeze option, some of them didn't. If you look at your remotes, there's a freeze button up top. And then there's also another option, which I'll show you later on how to freeze your screens. Now, going back to the home menu, we have our basic buttons here. There's a home in the house, there's a back button, there's the settings, and there's 2 ways you get to your settings. You can go here, click on your settings through that, and you have your different preferences. I can hit the back button down here or go back to view board there. The other options here I want to bring up real quick is you have 2 ways to get back to your computer. One, if you have a computer plugged in through your HDMI, it pops up here, just HDMI. I click on that and it brings me immediately to my computer. The other option is to click on the settings button here. And when I do that, it shows me my tablet, what I'm hooked into now. I can just click on HDMI 3 and go from there. And then, yes, I want that my computer screen backed up. But again, if I click the home button here, a simple option is whatever you have plugged in is accessible at the bottom. And we can bring that up through there. So through this, a convenient thing with these boards is there is a whiteboard function, so you can overlay things on here. And say I brought up a website, got my computer restarted. We'll just use my PowerPoint here. If you'll notice on your screen, you should have 2 little tiny arrows on each side. This can be accessed either way. You click on that and you have your menu here, different things you can do. First off, you have the overlay where you can type. You can write on your page, underline key things. You have a highlighter. I want you guys to all try this as I'm doing it. So go ahead and access through your tablets. Click on your HDMI 3 port and access your computer screens. Whoops. Your computer's not plugged in it. Is it in it? Is it?
No, my computer, I don't have my HDMI plugged in.
Okay, just go ahead and then cast to that.
Okay. I could plug it in real quick, but
no, you don't have to. We can work through it. That would be the convenient way. You already know how to do this casting part. Main things that you can pull up the screen and all right. So as you see there, if you look close, you have your arrows. There's little arrow points on your screen. Go ahead and click on those. And use the highlight tool. You click on that and you have your tools. You have highlight, trash can. I showed you, you can underline key things for your students on your slides. You can highlight key things. If you want to go back and make a mistake, you can erase. You can also hit the back button. You can hit a redo button. Once you're done with your screen, there's also a trash can to clear it all. Or if you want to save this for other classes, there's the old school floppy disk that you can click on to save. So I'll give you guys some time to mess with that for a little bit. When you're done with that, there's an X at the bottom that you can just close out. Other features with this, if you click on, bring that up again, and you click on your 3 dots there at the bottom, you also have other options. Like I was telling you earlier, if you look close, you can freeze from your remote. But if you look real close here, on my screen, whoops, it disappeared. Clicking on my 3 dots there, I can also freeze the screen without the remote. I just click on this little icicle screen pattern, and now my screen is frozen, and I could go to my computer and do other things on it. I could go and annotate over this screen if I wanted to. Other options there that I want to go through, you also have, it's a flashlight, and this is kind of neat. What it does is it darkens your screen, and you can go and you could emphasize, say you're looking at a picture and the kids aren't seeing something there, you could go to what you want them to look at. Highlight that image. Other options that come up here when we do this, there's a stopwatch. And I don't know about you guys, but in the past, I've always pulled up a website and, hey, kids, you have X amount of time. There's a timer that you can actually set underneath the stopwatch. So now instead of having to pull up that other site, like for example, I use this when sometimes on test, I'll give the kids, hey, you have 5 minutes to use your notes. And I'll run either from my phone or there's a website I use to do that. Now I no longer have to do either of those. I can just set a timer on my board up here. Other options, there's also, this goes with, if you want to use the whiteboard software that goes with there, you can put the code here, have the kids scan in, you can do quizzes through their cell phones. This year, we're not going to allow cell phones, which is a good deal. Other options, you can take a screenshot of your work if you wanted to, if you did something as a class and you wanted to save that. Again, that's up to you on using that, which we will talk about whiteboard and reasons why you may or may not want to use it.
Hold on, I'm at this, I'm checking out this QR code business. Even though we can't use cell phones next year, this may be good for conferences. Except, let's see. My internet is so slow in here. Hold on. Oh. It doesn't like spaces at the beginning of your name or something. There. This is cool.
There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
And there's different, like you can do polls through your students through that. You can give a pop quiz.
Oh, that is cool. Okay.
But the downside is not allowing cell phones.
Right.
So that's a basic overview of what you can do with the board and your different options. The next one I'm going to talk to you guys about is VCast Sender, and this was that app that I sent to you guys earlier, making sure everybody downloaded because we're going to practice doing it. With VCast Sender, what you have here is basically you can get rid of all the cords to your board, and you can put your computer anywhere in the room and project what's on your computer onto this screen. So, you know, pros, there's no cords. It's mobility for your laptop. You can show your students what's on your screen immediately. In Yearbook is where I use this probably the most this last year. When we proofread pages, we proofread as a class. And one thing I found is that when we switched from Medium board is the images were a lot clearer. And it was nice to be able to just sit back at my desk and say, hey guys, here's the cover that so-and-so made, or here's the adjustments we made to the cover. What do you guys think? Or here's this spread. So that was real convenient for me. The downside to it, I noticed that when I tried to cast in the mornings, my videos on my PowerPoint so that I showed on YouTube came up here instantly and there was no lag. But for some reason in the afternoons, I'm assuming that's when most people use the internet. And when you think about it, you're streaming a video from YouTube, and then from YouTube, you are streaming that to this screen here, also wirelessly. There was lag in the afternoons. Mm-hmm. Transitions were also slower. If I was going through slides, there'd be just a slight delay. The slide would change on the computer back there, and a second or two later, it would come up here. So pros and cons of this mode. And what I want to do now is I want you guys to practice going through this. So what you're going to do is if you look up on your screen, on your computer screen, you should have downloaded the VCast app. And I'll share my screen here, how we do this. But what you'll do is you'll go back to your home screen. You're going to hit the VCast receiver, and it's going to bring up a number and numbers and letters. The nice thing about this is it prevents your students. You always have those kids that get a little bit fancy who want to hack your system. So what you do is I want everybody to bring that system up. So real quick before I switch screens here, I want you to click the home screen, hit VCast Sender, get your code up there, and then I'm going to share my screen with you here. Go and click on that app that you'll have on your computer, VCast Sender. Looks like this here. And what you do is you type the code that's then on your board. E5G219. Maybe that's not an, maybe that's an I. Let me retry this. I'm having some technical difficulties.
Sometimes those I's and zeros are difficult.
There we go. All right, and then what pops up on your screen here is the, you want to receive or do you want to cast? I want to cast, so I hit cast, and here you go. I'm now sharing my computer that is not plugged in with my board and all my, and it basically, your board would work the same here as it would with, I can bring up all the tools, I can write on my screen, I can highlight, I can pull up any information, Google Docs, etc., and operate them from a touch screen, except my computer is not plugged in, it's in the back of the room. So make sure everybody, if you didn't already do it, go ahead and cast, make sure that works, just so you've done it and you know how to get there. Guess I must be still sharing my screen.
Somehow I was able to click out of it.
Oh, I want to disconnect. There we go. There, still not there. Well, all right, last thing I want to cover. Other things, key features of this, these new tablets we have in our room. They come with 2 pins. They're magnetic, easy to attach, etc. But a neat thing is that you no longer have to use a pin. Yeah, if you've been noticing and you guys have been messing with them, it is with your hands, all touchscreen, how you control it. And what's even cooler than that is there are 10 contact points. So, for example, let me go back. Didn't mean to do that. For example here, if you pull up the pin, watch, this is, you can, all 10 fingers at the same time can write on your boards. I don't know if you guys can see that, but go ahead and try that. The neat thing about this is 10 years ago, you know, with Promethean boards, you could take a pin up there and write on them. That was cool. But now that it's finger touch, and not only is it touching with your fingers, it's all 10 hands can draw. You could have 2 students up your board at the same time doing art. You could put a little mustache on me.
Well, I thought the one end worked as an eraser.
I haven't figured that part out. I think I haven't figured out why the eraser end doesn't work yet.
Well,
Play with it.
I think in Mrs. Stamper's room when we were on that other thing, on that other,
Oh, the whiteboard app. That's
the
where
whiteboard thing, the eraser part worked. But when I was writing, like doing this, it kind of, oh, it's working now. But it was putting like slash marks through it. So who knows? But it's not doing it now.
With those 10 contact points, what's neat is that, like I said, now instead of just one kid at a time using your board, you could have multiple students. One example of this is I did a breakout. It was a breakout room, digital breakout room. It wasn't one I created, but one someone else did. And there was a puzzle and none of the kids could figure it out on their Chromebooks. And one of the kids asked, "Hey, Mr. Dixon, can I go up there and do that?" And, you know, he started moving the puzzle pieces around and another student was like, "Hey, you know, that looks fun. I want to do that too." And I didn't get a picture of that in class, but I had 2 students up on the board, both of them taking puzzle pieces and putting it together, working together as a group. You know, a lot of potential. Other than that one time, I haven't found another reason to have 2 students doing something like that on the board at the same time. But you can see how the possibilities with this, whether it's some type of race or competition in the classroom, math problems, etc. There's stuff there. Potentials yet, you know, don't realize it yet. So what I tried to do is make this session short. And what I want you guys to do now is play with your smart boards. We're always complaining about how we don't have enough time to use any of the technology that we're introduced to at these conferences. So my goal behind this is that while I was going through it, you're messing with your boards and physically doing the steps so that you're less likely to forget them. And then I want to use the rest of this time here to play with our smart boards so that we're actually getting that time we always complain about to use the new technology that we've been given. Thank you for attending the meeting. If you need anything, message me and I can come down and go through the steps with you, or Mrs. Brown or Mrs. Stamper.